After Richard Eden's scathing admission that he wreaked havoc on Meghan Markle's American Riviera Orchard launch back in March, the whole world is asking themselves, where is American Riviera Orchard? I'm sure you've seen the story if you're here. I'm sure you've seen it by now. Richard Eden's piece in the Daily Mail, where he talks about getting that scoop that Meghan Markle wanted to release a new lifestyle brand. She wants to launch this new lifestyle brand that's going to compete with Martha Stewart. It's going to compete with Gwyneth Paltrow. That's the objective. I have heard TIG 2.0 forever. But Richard Eden is like, no, it's not TIG 2.0. It's not interviews with Michael Bublé. It's not, here's my favorite lipstick color by Bobbi Brown. It's something big. It's something official. So Richard Eden contacts Team Megs, and Harry and Meghan, so reactionary constantly. I mean, that is to me their biggest weakness. They are so reactionary and they don't really think through the consequences. So reactionary, they will not allow Richard Eden to have this scoop. So what they do is they prematurely launch American Riviera Orchard. They launch an Instagram. The Instagram has nothing. It doesn't even have that video that we saw initially when Meghan's Instagram went live. It was a stories, so it quickly disappeared. And the only way you can watch it today is if you find it on one of Harry and Meghan's fan accounts. But they just wanted to beat Richard Eden to the punch. So they threw up a website to collect email addresses, and they threw up an Instagram to try to collect followers. And Richard Eden's observation over the last few days was like, is this the worst celebrity launch in history? And I'm asking myself the same thing. Where is American Riviera Orchard? So I recruited the help of CEO of Junction Creative and author of Dare to Become, Julie Cropp Gareleck, to discuss her honest opinion about the American Riviera Orchard launch. She has no skin in the game. This is a woman that is talking to us completely from a business standpoint. She has no opinion on Meghan or Harry whatsoever. We're going to talk through the launch of a celebrity's lifestyle brand. Was it done properly? What mistakes were made? Is there any way to save it? That's the conversation we have. But again, this is her honest opinion as a professional in the field. She has no opinion whatsoever on the people behind it. She is talking to us from a business standpoint only about how American Riviera Orchard was launched. And it does the brand, is it in line with who Meghan Markle is today? Which I think is a really fair question that she asks. So I hope you enjoy this chat. Thanks so much for watching. You are the CEO of Junction Creative and the author of Dare to Become. Congratulations on your book. I mean, this book is about, how you have created this path for yourself. I mean, what did you feel vulnerable at all in writing this and admitting here are some wins and here are some losses?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime you're taking inventory in your life, in your career, it's very vulnerable. And I have to tell you, it's probably the most vulnerable that I've been in 20 years, right? I have a brand as the CEO of an agency, but this book really gets personal and it shares my story from working at my parents' restaurant to building my own agency.
One piece of information I learned from you was that recent data indicates 20% of businesses fail within their first year of operation and 50% fail within the first 5 years. And sometimes celebrity name recognition is not enough to survive. Some celebrity backed brands I completely forgot about or never knew existed. The Kardashian Card with a K, prepaid cards for teens that was founded in 2010, closed in 2010. Now, prepaid cards are often considered predatory. This card by the Kardashians, no different. It initially, I think on first day of launch, criticism from the Consumers Union. The Kardashians backed out pretty quickly, but not before Forbes published an article titled "The Kardashian Card is a Ripoff." And inside, the author said the Kardashian sisters launched a new credit card targeted for teens, one of the worst products to enter the financial market in a long time. Who knew that Hulk Hogan owned a restaurant called Pasta Mania, a pro wrestler's pasta haven located at the Mall of America, opened 1995, closed 1995. Lindsay Lohan's Beach Club. I mean, that honestly sounds like a good time to me, but it closed after 13 months. So when you hear that someone like Meghan Markle is launching a brand, American Riviera Orchard, we expect that she's going to want to compete with somebody like Gwyneth Paltrow, something like Goop. Is Meghan's brand recognition a blessing or a curse? She's one of the most famous women in the world, but she's also polarizing.
You're absolutely right. I mean, look, her brand is a blessing and a curse. It's both. What's incredible is she's built an incredible brand value, right? She's become a household name. The challenge though with that is that not all of the optics, not all of the articles, not all of the content that's out there right now is very positive. And so anytime you're going to enter in and unveil a lifestyle brand, you've got to get things right the first time.
So you said that you've got to get things right the first time, and one story that's been circulating this last week is by Richard Eden of the Daily Mail, and he says that earlier this year he received a tip that Meghan Markle was going to launch this lifestyle brand called American Riviera Orchard. He called her people for a reaction, and their reaction was to quickly launch an Instagram page so they could beat him to that scoop. They were so determined to not allow him to have that scoop that they launched this Instagram page. There's no content on it to this day. And so now, after Richard Eden admitted this and shared this story, the tone has been, was that a fail? Was that launch a fail? I mean, she sent out a couple of baskets of jam that we couldn't purchase. Normally I would go, she's building anticipation, but it does feel like it's been a significant amount of time since we heard about the initial launch, and there are no tangible products for us to purchase. How do you respond to that execution?
You know, look, as someone I've spent more than 25 years in marketing, right, in branding and helping drive strategy. Now, from her vantage point, she wasn't probably prepared to be scooped. But what I will tell you is the reaction or the lack of content that came out didn't necessarily help her initially. I think, again, the name got scooped. I think again, when we think of Meghan Markle, do we think of fashion? We do think of other brands that she's invested in that are lifestyle, that are clothing. But it fell a little flat when there was a jar of jam with an insignia that resembled something related to what you would see in Europe. And so I think it fell a little short of what consumers were looking for. And I definitely think that it caused a lot of chatter. And to your point earlier, it's been 6 months, right? And there's been no updates, there's been no content, there's been no messaging. So in this case, if I were advising her on what to do, I would say you need to hire somebody that really is familiar with brand execution, but also somebody that's going to help you get the messaging right, because there's a ton of negative content right now online. And while you can recover from that, I don't necessarily think that the response to potentially getting scooped was well thought out, right? Or we would have seen a message of, hey, it's coming soon. We're not ready. Here's when we plan to unveil it. And then all we're left with is rumors, right? And what the media is reporting on. And so in some cases, it's great to have all of these eyes, but with there being nothing to purchase and no update, it just is only going to allow the folks online to keep talking about it.
It also feels like a missed opportunity. Like if I'm excited for American Riviera Orchard,
Yes.
the further I get from that initial announcement, the less likely I'm engaged. And when is it coming? When is it coming? When is it coming? Because it just feels like, well, I've moved on to whoever or whatever's next in this world where our phones seem to be listening to us. And the second I say I'm ready to try a new toothpaste, Crest is all over my feed. It just seems very.
Well, yeah, and to your point, right, as consumers, we want information now. We want to buy it now. I will say one good brand extension I saw done well from another celebrity just recently was Sarah Blakely, known for Spanx, the billion-dollar brand, right? She came out with a new line of sneaker heels called Sneaks. She teased it weeks before it came out, and I have to be honest with you, I was following the news. I was curious, and after that 2 to 3 week mark, she hit it with the website. Products were available for purchase. Whether you like them or hate them, she nailed the extension on that. And so I feel like in Meghan Markle's case, even though she got scooped, she had a really unique opportunity to start driving content. She's getting eyes to her site. I went to the site today, right? There are so many people hitting, and there is nothing there for them to consume. So it is definitely a missed opportunity in my mind.
And she was a blogger when she first met Prince Harry. She had the TIG. There's so much content that could go up on the site today
Yes.
that could get us glued, whether it's recipes or interviews with some of her high profile friends. It
Yes.
feels like she could have repackaged the TIG. And maybe she does give a big rebrand or relaunch when she has the tangible products to sell. But for right now, I feel like it was almost a no brainer to throw up a TIG 2.0. And that would be, I love marketing and PR too. So I'm sorry that I'm sitting here armchair quarterbacking because I'm like, look at all the things we could have done.
I know.
When you think about the Instagram, was that a clever solution in the sense that it did seem like they were trying to capture their audience, whether it be through Instagram collection, Instagram follows, or email collection on their website. Uh, was that a clever, quick solution? I mean, in the end, there people are inevitably going to get an email in their inbox to say, "Hey, we're live," and that will break the internet likely. I guess is that the best solution in the worst in a terrible situation?
I mean, look, in a terrible situation, the fact that they're collecting email addresses is fantastic, right? It only arms them with more names to generate marketing to when they are ready. I do think that knowing that Instagram has been her platform, that's been where she's created content for years, it fell a little flat, right? We see the insignia, we see the logo, there's very little information. And again, at the time that this was unveiled, there was a lot of other talk, right, about sort of the separation from this royal life. But the logo itself actually sort of resembles that. So I feel like knowing that she has a powerful voice, knowing that she's created a lot of content, I would have loved to have seen videos of her talking about, hey, I'm building a brand. Here's what I'm passionate about. Here's what I've learned from other people. She talks about it, in previous articles in companies that she's invested in investing what you're passionate about. Tell us what you're passionate about. Don't throw up a logo and let us wonder. Tell us, right? She's been on TV, she's done sessions with Oprah, she's not shy from the camera. So I do think that she could have used that content to tell her story and tell the story that she wanted people to know about.
Well, that's so interesting because I can't imagine if she would have sat down and said, "Hey, I'm building this brand," allowing people in to watch that process could be very engaging. I mean, that
Yes.
really could be special because they're watching you start something from scratch and now they're more invested in what you're creating because you've given them that behind the scenes sneak peek. um, mentioning the separation from the royal family,
Mhm.
she they left the royal family. The I guess the soundbite at the time was they wanted more privacy. They do Oprah Winfrey, and then for the next few years, there's a lot of negative content there. I did not have a good time in the royal family. Was basically the tone. As an entrepreneur, is there a benefit in staying positive and uplifting? Um, as a business leader, is there a benefit to stay positive and uplifting? When I hear Tina Brown, the former editor of Vanity Fair, say that Meghan has made every mistake in the book and she's run out of road, I wonder if people are so comfortable to criticize her because there's a lot of negativity around the Harry and Meghan brand. If she left the royal family and there was no gossip afterwards, would people be more supportive of the brand?
It's a good question, right? So I look at media and attention as a leader, right? Or even as a personal brand coming out into the marketplace, there are going to be people that have negative things to say. I do think if your entree into this brand, right? That is Harry and Meghan. If the entree into that had been largely positive, you can get away with a few negative interviews. You can get away with not getting everything right. I think the challenge has been that the tone and the message has been negative thus far, right? And you have to remember the royal family has an even bigger brand value than most of these celebrities, right? So you have to be very careful about the people that have followed this traditional, historical family for years. It captivates not just folks in the UK, it captivates the world, right? So if your narrative is constantly negative, it is very difficult then for you to come out and say, I'm launching a lifestyle brand, I'm doing it on my own. But oh, by the way, it might resemble something that you would see in Europe. Right, but I want nothing to do with that heritage. I mean, if you look at even one of the jams that I think came out or the preserves that came out, I mean, they're rooted in European and Greece heritage, right? So you can't sort of deny that. So I do think that even as a leader, and I talk about this in the book, is that, even on my worst day, your clients, your the people that you serve shouldn't see that. Now, do people closest to me know what I'm struggling with? Will I share my story with other CEOs who are struggling with the very things I will? Absolutely. But if I went on a media tour and talked about the underbelly of what it is to be a business owner, who would I be inspiring? Right? Um, I think there's a delicate balance, but I do think that because the tone was definitely largely negative, it fed the gossip mill, it fed the rumor mill, right? Because it wasn't a positive statement about moving forward. And I think that at the end of the day, at least here in the US, we want a good, underdog story. We want to see people do well. We want to see them build brands. But if all you're talking about is what's happened to you and how negative it is, why would I want to buy those products or those services, right?
Right. I'm sorry I didn't prep you for this question, but I am
Yeah.
curious now that I have a better sense of your background and your obvious strengths. Looking at the new strategy we're seeing with Harry and Meghan, where they seem to be working solo versus always being together. We saw, we used to always see them together at Invictus games, sitting next to each other at on Oprah Winfrey on the Netflix couch. It now seems like they're pursuing their own passions. We're seeing Meghan on red carpets alone. We're seeing Prince Harry do like these quasi royal tours solo. Do you think that that is a strategy because they realize that together they have created this reputation that, like we talked about, it might be a little negative, and solo, they have an opportunity to reinvent themselves. For Prince Harry, he has an opportunity to remind the world that fell in love with him when he was a little boy why they fell in love with him. And then
Mhm.
for her, she might be able to say, like, this is me now. I mean, she wore her hair different on the last red carpet we saw her at, a sexier dress. Like it definitely felt like to me she was trying to say, I'm someone else.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I do see the strategy. It's very obvious, right? That there is intentional separation. But what I love about it is intentional, right? And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I do like what I'm seeing because at the end of the day, if they want to succeed and they want to be viewed as leaders in whatever field they're choosing, so whether it's a lifestyle brand or whether it's recommitting themselves to the communities that they've served or the nonprofits that they have so supported for decades, it is important to come back out and to your point, say, this is me now, right? And I do think that they were challenged. Like I said, all eyes were on them. I do think it was probably a learning lesson as well. We all learn lessons that way, but I do see more intention with how they're communicating. And I do love the fact that we're seeing them separate, seeing them in their own space thrive. And I do think that's what's going to be required if she wants to launch a lifestyle brand, because this brand is not Harry and this brand is not it's not royal, right? So she really has to be able to carve out for herself who she is now and who she wants to be known for, or what she wants to be known for.
All right. So if Meghan Markle calls you tomorrow and says, I'm going to fly you to Montecito on the private jet while I'm simultaneously on a call about climate change, and I I want to I want to talk to you about how I move forward with American Riviera Orchard. I mean, I would not know what to say if I was in that position. I think that there's so much potential, but how do you explode out of the water and change the entire narrative and make this Goop 2.0 or something bigger and better?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's a great question. And I would tell you this, I would treat her just as I would any other client, right? And it's back to basics. I think even now that we've scooped the name of the brand, I have questions about how that even aligns with who she is and what she's been about, right? So I think it is getting back to the foundation and saying, hey, do you have someone that can tell you no? Because I will tell you that it's really easy with celebrities or with high profile clients to give and to say, oh, yes, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. But there are a lot of great brand folks that have been around for decades that have seen this succeed and have seen this, fail as well. And I think that I would ask those questions around who is it that you're trying to reach? What are the products? And then what is your story? Because the story isn't, here's what happened to me in the last decade. The story is, here's why I'm doing this now. And so I do think that that's where I would start. And I would also encourage her to tell an authentic story and to leave all of the noise behind. Don't address it, don't talk about it, don't reference it. But if she really wants to be successful as a business leader, she has to tell that story to her customers because we're not buying we're not going to be buying the royal story. They're buying a product that, again, we've never seen, we've never unveiled. And so I think it's incredibly important to get back to the beginning and to start to tell the story the way it needs to be told.
So interesting because just listening to you have like I'm envisioning that meeting, and it would be so much more powerful for Meghan to say, well, I'm a mom now. And this is a way for me to share some of my hacks, or it would be way more interesting to have a better understanding of how her life today has influenced this new project versus what happened back then and how they ended up where they ended up. We know, we've heard 7 different versions of it, but we know
Yes.
how is your life today affecting your business and your passions, and what are you excited about today? So that's really great advice. I absolutely love that. And for Prince Harry, do you look at him doing old Prince Harry things and think, hey, he's probably on the right path there too?
I would like to think so. I mean, look, I grew up in that generation, right? I mean, we were kids growing up seeing the royal wedding with Princess Diana, right? I mean, this was what we grew up knowing. I've seen him grow up. I'm probably a little bit older than he is, but I've watched him grow up. And you know what? He has an incredible brand appeal. I mean, of the two brothers, I've always seen him as more visible, not because he was getting in trouble, but because he was relatable. And that when you saw him speak or you saw him with his when he was traveling to Africa or when he was working with his nonprofit, he was authentically being himself. And I do believe that if we can see more of that, that his brand can recover because ultimately that is who he is. That's why we fell in love with him. And so I don't think he's so far from that. But I do think that he's definitely on the right track.
Julie Cropp Gareleck, CEO of Junction Creative and the author of Dared to Become. How can people get your book? Is it available? Is it available on Amazon? Where do you prefer people purchase it?
Yeah, Dare to Become is literally available virtually on every major platform,
Oh,
including
you don't have to
Amazon.
brag. You don't have to
Yeah,
brag.
no, it's fantastic. It's also in Hudson Booksellers. So if you're at an airport or you're traveling and you're looking for a great read, you can pick it up at all of the major cities. And it's also in your local bookstores as well. So it's very easy to find. Just Google Dare to Become and my name, Julie Cropp Garelick, and you will be able to find your closest bookstore.
I mean, I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
while I'm quizzing you, who is your target audience? Who do you think is purchasing that book and learning and developing based on some of your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, data will tell me that it's women, right? Women
Well,
are
we
going to
love
be the
them.
biggest
We love
purchaser of books. Yeah, but what's really great is the book appeals to a multitude of audiences. It's not just for business owners, it's also for those individuals who are building a career. Because I will tell you, what I've experienced is relevant to all of us. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone who's in their 20s or someone in their 50s that has come to me and said, oh, chapter 6, I
them.
related to what you said so much because these aren't just stories about being successful as a business owner. It's also how are you going to be successful in business in general. So it definitely appeals to both audiences. But I certainly know more women are likely going to pick up the book than men.
Well, we like them better anyway. So, well,
Yes.
thank you so much for spending time with me today. That was to me, it was a really fun and engaging conversation. I love marketing. I love PR. And, what you said that stood out to me the most was back to basics. Sometimes it's as easy as stripping everything down and saying, wow, I wanted to do this because, and that raw authenticity it becomes magic.
It's what sells products and services, right? So if you can't get back to who you want to be authentically, you're never going to reach the people that you're trying to get to.
Well, I appreciate your time today. It was so great to meet you, and I hope I talk to you again soon. I'll look for any excuse. Oh, you'll come back when American Riviera Orchard launches. You'll be my
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Okay, perfect. I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Agree with us, disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Can Meghan Markle salvage American Riviera Orchard? I'm curious to know your take. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Kinsey Schofield.